Hey everybody, we are on the road on today's episode out to Cornelius, North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte, to attend a fantastic dinner and speak with chefs Joe Kindred and Greg Collier. But before the show gets started, I want to shed some love on our amazing sponsors that help make the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast exist. First of which, Triangle Wine Company. You hear Matt and I talk about them weekly, and they are great people, great establishment, completely knowledgeable about the products that they serve and sell. So head out to any of the 4 locations, whether you are in Southern Pines, Holly Springs, Morrisville, or Cary. Tell them that Max and Matt of the NCF&B podcast sent you and receive a discount for dropping our names. And while you're there, you can also pick up one of our other brand new sponsors of the show, Proof Alcohol Ice Cream. Think differently about dessert with Proof Alcohol Ice Cream. That's right, it's actual alcohol, 14% proof, that is, 7% ABV. You must be 21 or older to purchase, but you can get delicious ice cream, not only at Triangle Wine Company, but that's a great place to get started. You can try flavors like coconut rum, caramel bourbon, Oka chocolate moonshine, and they just released their new apple pie. Oh, it's so delicious. So, check out Proof Alcohol Ice Cream. Click the show notes on this episode to find out more information, and we will see you back in studio next week.
What's up, my food and beverage community? I want to tell you about an awesome champagne seminar this Friday. That's tomorrow, November 8th at 6:30. It's in Durham at the Wine Feed. It's right off the highway. It's a cool spot. And my good friend of Vintage 59 Imports, Deborah Lewis, who is extremely knowledgeable about champagne, is going to give us a seminar on 6 different grower champagnes. So come in, drink merrily, and learn a ton about champagne. I know it's out there, it's intimidating, it's mythical, but Deb is going to break it down for us and make it easy to digest and consume. Go to thewinefeed.com for tickets. That's WINEFEED.com, and it's $45.
You are listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for downloading and subscribing. Coming to you virtually live from high atop the historic Raleigh building in beautiful downtown Raleigh. The NCF&B takes the listener behind the scenes to tell the stories of the people that contribute to the creation of the food and beverage community of North Carolina. And now, the misfits in the dish pit, the faces of the front. They are Max Trujillo and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
I am one of today's temporary co-hosts, Bobby McFarland.
And I am the other co-host, Lauren Kruchten.
Lauren is the Kraken, because I don't know how to say her last name, and I like saying the Kraken instead. She works with us. She does all our social media. She often writes our show notes. She's a badass, but she also writes for Raleigh Magazine. She knows how to write a pen to paper and really do some creative things in the food and beverage industry. And, of course, Bobby, he has been on the show previously, but he's also cooked in many different endeavors all over Raleigh and up in New York and Jersey, and we're excited to have you all in here. Matt is changing diapers somewhere back in Holly Springs, so we're excited to have everybody here. Yeah, so Lauren and Bobby joined me out here in beautiful Cornelius, North Carolina, close to Charlotte, because we are super excited for the dinner at Hello Sailor tonight. Chef Greg Collier and Chef Joe Kindred are working together. I believe this is the first collaborative dinner you're doing at Hello Sailor. Is that right, Joe?
We've done a couple, but this is the first of the series that we're about to kick off. Yeah.
This series,
yeah.
Okay. And so we are outside on the deck overlooking the Lake Norman, and it's beautiful out here, kind of like the best weather we ever could have hoped for.
For sure.
We should have rented a boat and done scratched the whole
can
dinner thing and just gone out.
Can we start a fire or something?
He just really wants a fire.
It just feels right. Like it's cold, you know what I'm saying? It's a little chilly, a little windy, man. We eat good and then start a fire and get drunk and do random crazy things. Yeah.
We do have a burn barrel that we could
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
See, he's with me on the fire.
All right. Yeah.
We can make that happen.
Well, as Joey was just mentioned before we got started, that Katie's dealing with enough fire right now. She's in Northern California. Joe's wife, who's dealing. We all of our love out to everybody in wine country, and even in Southern California. My sister-in-law was evacuated from her house in Los Angeles, so it's a little tough on the West Coast right now. So our hearts go out to everybody here. But talking about food tonight, Greg, we have never officially met, though we've kind of done a couple little Facebook talks back and forth, which has always been fun. And I genuinely, I've actually mentioned on the podcast before about virtual friendship versus real friendship, and I said, I just used you as an example. I go, well, there's like Chef Greg Collier. I've never met him before, but I talk with him via Facebook every now and then on various topics, and I kind of feel like I know him a little bit, and one day I'll meet him, and then I'll be like, hey, what's up? And that's it. So that's today. We've eventually crossed, went full circle. And of course, if anybody's been listening to the podcast from back in the day, we spoke to Joe and Katie when Kindred, well, I guess Kindred had been open for about a year and a half when we spoke, and that was like in the summer, probably like episode 30 or something like that. Now we're about 180, so a lot has happened since then, and I want to say that Hello Sailor was just in the building stages. It hadn't yet been open. In fact, when we had finished recording out there in Davidson, we went to Cornelius, and we just came in and kind of poked our heads around and saw. I think you and Katie had like you're building or meeting the contractors.
Oh, yeah.
So, Greg Collier, you are a chef from Memphis originally. Is that correct?
Born and raised in Memphis, Tennessee.
You and your wife Sabrina came out here. You opened the Yolk in Rock Hill, which is South Carolina. We'll let that slide. We're North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. But it's essentially like a suburb of Charlotte, right?
For sure, like 15 minutes from Uptown.
Yeah. And a few years had passed. You ultimately moved into a new location. The Yolk is now here in Uptown. And we'll get into that. And of course, you are cooking here tonight. Both of you two share the designation of both being James Beard semifinalists, nominees, finalists as well, and then both cooking on the same stage. So, Joe, as I was mentioned before, let's get into Hello Sailor a little bit. Since it's not a new restaurant any longer, it's now a working restaurant. How is Hello Sailor going now?
It's doing great. We so this place is super special to me because some of my earliest childhood memories, my parents they split pretty early on, but when my parents were together, we actually lived like 2 coves over, and we would come over here on Friday nights. And we would eat Calabash shrimp and hush puppies. And so, and my parents split when I was about 10. So those were some of the earliest, really influential, impactful food memories that I had. And you would always run into your buddy on the baseball team and his family, or whoever that you played soccer with, or whatever it may be. So this was like a place that was designed for people from the area to come in and really get together and have some fun kind of Calabash style things. Back then it was called Harbor Lights, and the owner, Jack Bennett, turns out I went to high school with his daughter, and when we opened Hello Sailor, he showed up about 2 days early, and he brought me the original Harbor Lights menu framed with a little note saying, hey, I remember when you came in, your parents were some of our best customers, and I had the first dollar bill that they ever sold for Harbor Lights. So I still have that down in the office if you guys want to take a look at it, but it's pretty cool. But yeah, so when the space came available, it used to be, it's had a couple iterations. Most recently, it was kind of like a lakefront bar, if you will. And, we wanted to turn it into something that could be, approachable for people if they want to come in a bathing suit right off the lake, because we have 21 boat slips here. Or if people want to come in and they want to, kind of dance, if you will, and eat some, high-end, really fun, chef-driven food. So our menu reflects that. It's a little bit of both. You've got Calabash options. You have your burgers, all sorts of kind of more nostalgic sandwiches. And yeah, it's been super fun. We're very proud of the place, and my wife designed it, so it's super beautiful. And we're sitting out here on the Tiki Bar, which I think is one of the coolest places.
Yeah, when we were just trying to figure out where to set up the microphones. I'm like, no, we got to go outside. This is cool. This is like what, and we had to turn the Dick Dale surf music off just for the podcast sake. But normally that's going to be playing in the background. So you've done, like, that's the one thing that I've noticed with Katie, like her attention to detail. The whole place has like a mid-century, kind of Beach Boys vibe, if you will, but like artistry. It's got a mid-century feel to it. But everything, just down to the last detail, it just makes you feel comfortable. But it almost like makes you like throwback right to that time. It's like 1964 all over again or something. But it's awesome.
Yeah, we went to Palm Springs for the kind of the R&D for this project from a design standpoint. And that's where, like, she gets the palm trees out front and all the kind of spiky looking things, and the floor, the tile floor inside, or the slate floor. I'm sorry, that was the one piece of design, or the two pieces of design I had. Actually, three. Oh. I was in charge of the Kurt Cobain picture that costed way too much of him smoking a cigarette, which I love that one. It's a cool picture, right? Yeah. The slate floor, which was an ode to my grandfather, which Barracuda Bill makes lots of appearances throughout the restaurant, whether it's like through the beer that Free Range makes for us, specifically for Hello Sailor, it's called Barracuda Bills, or whether it's the slate floor, which is how the type of floor my grandfather had at our beach houses where we spent summers growing up, to the actual Barracuda on the side, the little what is it called, like what is it when you have like animals hanging on the wall? Taxidermy, I guess. Taxidermy. Yeah, so it's actually like a mounted huge barracuda on our wall. So
is it real?
Those are my three things that I did for the design of this place.
So she let you have three things?
Yeah, I mean, I might have begged her for about 3 months during the thing, and I might have sent a couple text messages with really cool pictures thinking about it, but yeah.
But that's cool, because that's like indicative of being true and honest to yourself. We just were interviewing Chris Coleman right now, right before we got over here, see what he's doing over at the Goodyear house, and he was just kind of saying, even with food, he's like, I just want to do what I want to do, just like everything basically for me, and just do it that way. And when you're like super honest and true to yourself and all these things, then you're like, your heart gets bigger, and you're like, you feel better when you're cooking there or just in your environment. So that's cool.
I bet you had a lot more to do with the actual menu than the design of the place. Is there any dish on the menu that you really think like defines what you do here?
So the Calabash shrimp is pretty special to me. I mean, we went up and down North Carolina coast and South Carolina coast, went to Calabash, and I really like that. It's super simple. It's a dish that I had when I was a kid coming here, and our hush puppies I think are very special. Those are like, I can close my eyes and like think about having those in this building as a child, and then to be able to kind of recreate that with like some chefier things, like we get in my buddy Greg's Geechee Boy, we get in his cornmeal, we get in then we do instead of like just a honey butter that most people would have growing up with the hush puppies, we do like a yuzu kosho honey butter, so it's like a fermented chili and citrus butter. It's super cool. But the Calabash, we keep it true OG.
I'm not from the South. What exactly is Calabash?
So Calabash is actually a place in North Carolina that is known for Calabash-style seafood, which is, for lack of better words, lightly breaded and then fried. But instead of fried to like super hard, like gold, like dark brown, it's more like a golden brown. And the idea is that it's, instead of being like a super heavy, like a tempura batter, it's just simply dredged in buttermilk. Our interpretation is simply dredged in buttermilk and flour, and then you shake the excess flour off, and then drop it for just until it gets right before golden brown.
Sounds good.
Super simple, just like hand food, right? Like you can just go crazy with it.
Yeah, you got to eat it immediately, or it's one of those things.
Yeah,
I respect the restraint, not like over chefing it up, because this location really speaks for itself. This deserves some of the attention of the experience for sure.
Yeah.
So let's get in a little bit to tonight. Let's talk about, you brought in Greg. How did you two lovebirds meet?
So, well, you can tell it, or I can tell.
I'll tell. So the first time we met was at Sensoria at CPCC.
Wait, hold on, those were a lot of words I didn't understand.
So Sensoria is a food and wine festival that PCG, Piedmont Culinary Guild, was collaborating with the community college, and we met there. It's kind of like I was cooking, and I think he came like in late, and he was like, "Yo, man, why are you wasting your time doing breakfast, man? You wasting your talent. And we had all been drinking, and I was like, huh. I don't think I had always thought about doing dinner, kind of considered it, but I don't think I really was gonna do it, like, because I was like, I like being at home at 3 or 4 o'clock. And that's one of the things that stuck with me. I was like, yo, man, maybe I should think about doing dinner. Here we go, 3 years later, now I'm doing dinner. But like we've cooked together like 3 times in the last month and a half. Yeah. This is weird. Like, it's rare that you get to cook with any chefs in the city, like once a year. But for whatever reason, Joe and I have cooked together for different things in the last like 60 days 3 times.
Oh,
back
really?
to back. Yeah. So
you guys moving in together?
I don't know, man. I don't know if Katie and Sabrina be okay with that. Well, actually, they might be okay with that.
He is hanging out. Aren't you spending the night tomorrow night?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
Said so. Yeah, maybe.
So yeah.
This is like a whole new sitcom.
Yeah. Moving out on the lake, trading places. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, when I feel like Greg has a voice. Well, Greg and Sabrina, I have to always be careful to say that, because if we leave our better halves out, we're not going to be sleeping outside by the fire. Probably.
Then we all gonna have to move in together.
But I think that Greg has a voice that Charlotte really, really needed, and needs for that matter. And I just really appreciate, how honest he is, both with his voice, his beliefs, and with his food. And like I still remember the liver dish that you did with William over at Haymaker. Yeah. That was super tasty. So that's why, we were like, hey, we want to do this guest chef dinner series. We want to have, a couple chefs from Charlotte, but we wanted to bring in some outside folks, and we thought that Greg would be the great kind of like catapult, like the first dinner series of this part. So, thankfully he agreed, and here we go.
Thankfully.
Well, so let's get into that breakfast chef.
Yeah.
So for those that don't know, so the Yolk is known as a breakfast joint, but that's not your only jam. You're about to open Leah and Louise, and that's like early 2020. We're talking.
Yeah. We're looking at end of January. Almost 100% worst case scenario, we'll be open for Valentine's. So, yep.
But you also started Soul Food Sessions as well, and that's like a pop-up dining experience.
Right.
You tell us what it is.
It's a black chef dining series that we started to. Initially, it was just to cook together, because a lot of times we do dinners and it would be kind of like one black chef in the room or whatever. And we just wanted to be able to cook together, just to be in the kitchen together. You know what I mean? Just kind of a camaraderie thing, because a lot of us kind of had the same stories and kind of shared some of the same things where, like me and Joe, we have a conversation. We could talk about a lot of things that we came up as, but then like it was just another level with Black Chef, just because we kind of had so many different similarities. So that's how it started. Then from there, it was kind of like, well, we could reach out to younger black cooks, because we didn't have mentors coming up, because there might have been 1 or 2 black chefs in the kitchen. So we had people we could look to, but it stopped at the kitchen. It didn't go past the kitchen. It wasn't really in the life stories and how you came up and how you grew up and some different things that happened outside of the kitchen. So we felt like we could kind of reach back to younger black cooks and kind of be their mentors. From there, it kept growing and growing and growing. And in 2018, we actually went on a 4-city tour with Coca-Cola Consolidated. So that was a huge thing. Did dinners in D.C., dinner in Baltimore, dinner in Charleston, and of course the one in Charlotte. And for each dinner, we actually gave scholarship funds to culinary students, for whatever books, pans, knives, whatever they needed. And what's so dope to me about it is, when I was coming up, I just was trying to find similarities. And it's not that every chef I worked for in the kitchen was rude or asshole or dickhead. I'm not sure if I can say any of those things. If you need to edit it.
Any bad word you want.
Heard that. Any bad word I want. It wasn't that like chefs was just like, I don't want to talk to you. It just wasn't like people I grew up with, people who did the things that I did when I came up. So being able to do that, like I got a cook in there, Brandon now. He's so different from me. Like, we grew up in such different places, but when we have conversations, it's like, okay, there's that thing. Whatever it is, I get that. So it's different conversations.
Well, and that ties back to like trying to be yourself as much as possible.
As authentic as you can be. You know what I'm saying?
I guess if you're in a kitchen and if you're the only black cook or black chef in a kitchen with people that didn't grow up with you, then you're culture can only go so far.
For sure. It's automatically limited, and it's like I said, it's not. Most times it's not on purpose. I didn't have a whole lot of chefs that were super dickheads. Like I had like 2. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? In the grand scheme of things, and I worked for 20. I'm not gonna tell you. Am I cool with them now to not say that? No, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna do that.
They know who they are.
Yeah, they know who they are. And even those chefs, I found so many positive lessons in what I felt like at the time was being too pushy or being too hard on me. Me and Joe, me and Paul, me and William, we all talk about like, we came up rough, but then again, we're here too. So, but anyway, I digress.
So, I think, am I right by saying you and Chef Greg Williams, Jamie Barnes, Michael Bowling, and Jamie Turner,
yes,
and yourself? That's all. Jamie's been on the podcast recently.
Yeah.
I was the host or MC of the NCRLA Chef Showdown, of which she won Pastry Chef of the Year.
Killed that.
And she and Michael Bowling were driving to the James Beard house, where you all cooked.
Yeah.
And that was, I guess, probably a lot had to do with the inspiration of you all cooking on this tour and really picking up a lot of traction. I mean, that's pretty amazing that you just kind of put this together and then boom, you were invited to the James Beard house.
I think, for one, we're fortunate to be in Charlotte, right? I think a lot of people in North Carolina, a lot of different places kind of look at Charlotte and they don't know what to make of Charlotte, but we have a lot of people who support what we're doing and believe in what we're doing. I mean, Joe and Katie, for one, that's why one of the reasons why we're here tonight. Believe in what the mission is, and they believe in diversity. It's not just a catchword or something to say to make you seem cool. They care. CRVA is highly responsible for making sure we got to the James Beard house, because a lot of people talking about it, say, hey man, y'all should do it, but they made a point to put their money where their mouth was and help get us there. So
CRVA is the Charlotte Restaurant Visitors Association. No, what is it? Sorry.
Regional.
Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority.
Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority. Yeah.
Like, of course, we've worked real hard for it. And it's a few times Charlotte has gone up and represented, and people kind of like, oh, so why aren't you there? And it was kind of like, well, we have something planned. Like we're gonna send the whole team up. So it was a huge honor to cook in New York at the Beer House. So it was
tiny kitchen, right?
Yeah, man. And everybody told me it was tiny. Like everybody told me it was tiny. Did we have when did we do that dinner? Like 2 weeks before? Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, yo, man, the kitchen's small. And I'm like, okay. It's like, nah, bro, the kitchen's small. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, it's a small kitchen. But it's small in width and verticality. You know what I'm saying? I was in there, I was like, oh, wow, they meant small. Like, it's like the hood is at 5'10" or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. I got a picture where I'm, like, in the hood like that, and I took a selfie, and you can't see my face. It's weird.
And all 5 of you were cooking essentially in there?
Again, what's so dope about Charlotte is the collaboration of it. So everybody was calling and texting, was like, yo, do this, don't do that, don't do this. Don't have all your garnishes hot. Like, don't, like... Take this prep. Do this prep. Take this with you. Hey, this store has this. So when we went, I mean, it was hard. We had to work, but it was so easy because everybody told us everything to do and set us up so well. So yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Is it just one dinner when you go there, or do you cook multiple nights?
Yeah, so we just cook one night. Oh God, no, multiple nights. Yeah, cooking out of town. Yeah, no, that wouldn't. No.
That'd be a thing.
Yeah, that'd be a whole different conversation to have.
So what did that menu look like?
Oh man,
I mean, like, what's like something you did?
I did hot water cornbread and whole chicken liver pate, and there's some more stuff. Like we did a fermented corn relish on it. The cake I think Jamie did was I can't remember everything. I think I did a field pea panisis instead of chickpea panisis with catfish salad. It was a really good dinner.
For about how many people?
70?
Okay.
70 or 75, something like that. It used to be 90, but they cut the room down a little smaller, so I think we ended up doing 75.
Budget cuts at the house.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It was amazing. Like the team made it so easy. It was kind of hard because, we cook and we run stuff. So it's like when you go to a place and they're like, hey, nah, don't do that. Do this, don't do that, do this. At first I was like, what do you mean don't do that? We do this every dinner. And it was like, no, don't worry about it. We got it. And then when it started, they had it. So it was way easier than I had heard it was.
So the James Beard they are definitely aware of what's going on, kind of the zeitgeist of the food industry. And I know that a couple of years ago, when we all went to the James Beard Awards in Chicago, the podcast went. North Carolina was represented by, there were like 14 nominees that year, 2 years ago, and of that, the lion's share of the representatives were female. And this is also the same year that the hashtag #MeToo scenario came out. The whole restaurant, the restaurant industry was exposed in, like kind of this like patriarchal, like kind of negative society, situation. And I remember writing to the James Beard and saying, we really want to go there because we want to represent North Carolina, but specifically because we have so many strong female chefs that are here, and this is a narrative that needs to be discussed, and I believe we actually have more females in our state represented at the James Beards this year than any other state, and so we want to tell that story. And so so we were allowed to go, and like literally our podcast was on the red carpet next to the Chicago Tribune, the NCF&B podcast, and the New York Times. Like, we're like, what the hell are we doing here? But it was cool, and we got to do that. And so, but this season or this year, I think they've been very observant of like minorities in the kitchen, African American culinary awareness, and for that reason, like you just said, like there needs to be more. There needs to be more mentors that are African American. There needs to be maybe not just the token black guy in the kitchen, right?
Sure.
Like it needs to be more happening. And so that was really great that they've been able to do that. That leads me to obviously why you created Soul Food Sessions and the whole concept of soul food. And I brought it up before. Brandon Shepard, who's a chef of the podcast, been on the podcast before. This was that whole Facebook question he posed, but I wanted to get your take, and I want to get everybody's take here that's sitting out right now. The whole soul food versus Southern food, right?
So,
what makes soul food, and what makes Southern food?
So I'll give my answer that I had before I got schooled a little bit. Ty Richards is one of my mentors. Oddly enough, before we opened the restaurant in 2011, I sent him a Facebook message. Was like, bro, chef, I don't know. Like, I'm about to open a restaurant. I've never ran a restaurant before. What should I do? And he was like, well, first of all, a lot. Give me a second and I'll hit you back. And he sent me like this 3 Facebook page thing about all the stuff, like, hey, go do this to get your sales taxes. This is the Department of Revenue. He just sent me his whole list of stuff to do. So for one, there'll never ever be a time where somebody asks me for help or assistance that I don't do it, because this is after his 3rd James Beard that he did this. Wow. No questions asked, no money, no conversation about anything. So I did have a mentor, 1. 2, his take on soul food is seasoned a little heavier and it's low on the hog. That's how he feels about soul food. Low on the hog. Instead of eating high on the hog, like tenderloins, chops, hocks, belly, chitlins,
like
stuff
physically the lower side of the
lower
pig.
On the hog, and the cheaper parts of the hog. I mean, like, because the head is really low on the hog, but it's not low on the hog.
Sure. Unless the head's hanging low.
For sure. But so for me, I don't think that there's necessarily a separation of soul food and Southern food. I think Southern food encompasses everything. I feel like soul food kind of gets used to pigeonhole people into cooking a specific type of food and not being able to cook another food. So like black eyed peas are soul food, field peas are Southern food. But black eyed peas are a form of field pea.
Yeah.
I just think that the term, I think the term has been used kind of to pigeonhole people. That's why we call the soul food session, because we from both sides of the coin, right? If we're just talking about white folks and black folks, which is such a shallow part of the Southern food story. We're not talking about Indians. We're not talking about Mexicans. We're not talking about Asian Americans who came over. We're not talking. It's a whole lot more in the Southern food than black people and white people. Yeah. But when you're talking about black people and white people kind of think, oh, soul food is for me, oftentimes, and white people kind of think, oh, Southern food is for me, like oftentimes when we're having conversations. So I think it's, I won't say it's a purposeful form of distinction to kind of keep everybody separate, but in reality, we're all cooking the same stuff. We're just treating it a little different. You know what I'm saying? Purloin and gumbo are super close, but it's just like, okay, Perlu is more Charleston, gumbo is more New Orleans. You know what I'm saying? So I just I think I'm cooking Southern food. I think I might season different than somebody else who's cooking Southern food, but I think it's really all Southern food. And it's from an ingredient standpoint, and it's also from looking at the heritage and the history of something and making sure you honor that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I kind of park our cars in the same garage,
sure,
so to speak. I mean, I was really straightforward by saying I think soul food is food that manifests itself from the African culture and actually should only be cooked by African Americans. That was my thing. And then I said Southern food, it could be all the same types of food, but also kind of a larger umbrella in that it does incorporate Latino culture and Asian American culture and anybody, Irish culture, it doesn't matter. You're from the South, these are foods that came from there. And so anyone, if it's like a Venn diagram, right? But like the soul food is like a smaller subset of Southern food. And then I caught some flack for that too. People are like, "You're being racist, man." I'm like, no, I'm just being conscious of knowing that we are a little different as people, we should be able to embrace that difference and say, same thing. Like, you look at me, I look like a white guy, but I'm Latino, and I grew up in a Latino household. And if there was like Latino cooking that was like la raza, like totally Mexican style, then I could make that food and I could claim all these things. And if a white guy made the same thing, like Rick Bayless starts throwing down a bunch of Mexican food, he can throw it down,
right?
But, like, are other Mexicans going to look at him and go, like, oh, yeah, he's one of us, or he's whatever? It's like, it's a weird dichotomy, and it is racial, and it's not to be disrespectful, but I think it's just, like, it is cultural.
I don't necessarily think it's racial. I think it's heritage-centric. Like, it's
cultural, right?
Right. Yeah. Like, Joe grew up in, like, beach, lake culture, right? That's just the way he grew up. Like, I never went to the beach. Like, I'm from Memphis, so we landlocked. Obviously the river's there, but I didn't hang out at the beach. So the way I kind of grew up on food is a little different. Now that doesn't mean that we both can't cook a phenomenal pot of grits, and that
Joe
both doesn't mean
Jimmy Buffett playing in the summer.
Not at all.
Not a Jimmy Buffett.
But I mean, and I think that's kind of the point, right? Like, I think what it's about for me more than anything is respecting the place that whatever the thing is came from, no matter what it is. I love making tamales. Like, I like tamales. I ain't Mexican, right? So when I go and make tamales, I'm looking at Mexican recipes for how I'm supposed to do it. Yeah. I ain't making it and calling it a corn roll up. Like, I'm not taking this thing and calling it something random because I want to try to make it mine. I'm actually looking at it, I'm saying, hey, this is a tamale. Yeah. I'm putting smoked field peas in my tamales versus pork, but I'm still making a tamale. I'm not, and I think that's what's really important for me. It's not really about who owns it versus who doesn't own it. It's about, hey, let's look at the roots of these things, whatever they are, and let's make sure we pay homage to those people who started that, and then we build from there. Versus kind of saying, all right, I see cornmeal and I see it wrapped in the thing and I'm baking it. I could call it whatever I want to call it. We have to honor history. Even like there's some negative history and positive history. We have to honor the things in history that we know started stuff, especially when we're talking about foodways first. Then we build on that. But if chefs are not looking back at history and not taking a point and saying, this is where it started, this is who started, these are the people, let's honor them and then let's build, they're just doing it wrong.
Joe, any thoughts on that?
I don't know that I'm well enough educated on either of the subjects to go on record and to try and preach about it or to speak about it in an educated conversation.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, what you were talking about, like if you actually were working, let's say, in Greg's kitchen.
Well, I think we were addressing some of the other points that were made on that thread that were a little bit more extreme than what was expressed right here, which was just the absolute that white people cannot cook soul food, no matter how much research they put into the history.
Right.
To be honest, I'm kind of like Joe. I don't really know where I stand or how to articulate what I feel about it, but I just raise a question, to those people who have that black and white view on the subject. If a white line cook is cooking an African American's menu, is it still authentically soul food?
Well, the first question you have to beg is, because you're cooking in an African American kitchen and an African American menu, is it soul food in the first place? No, and that's the no. And that's the thing, and that's where not even negative or positive, left or right. That's the thing. That's the first question you have to beg. Is because I'm a black chef, am I cooking black food? Is an Italian chef always cooking Italian food?
Yeah.
Is a Japanese chef always cooking Japanese food?
I should have specified. I
that's not. I'm not tripping. Like I'm not. Yeah, not even a little bit. But
Cool.
but that also that does beg the question. That goes back to say, can only African Americans cook soul food? Of course not. It's a lot of people who cook pasta better than me, so they might be able to make a better macaroni and cheese dish than me because they cook pasta from just from the roots, right? Better than me. I like cooking collard greens, but that don't mean somebody else can't cook a better pot of collard greens because they apply better technique or they get better greens or they have better hocks. So I don't think really it's a who can and can't cook it. My point is always and will always be the same thing. If you're cooking spaghetti and meatballs, there are steps from the can of spaghetti and meatballs all the way down to making your pasta and raising the animals. And in between that, there are steps backwards to honor that. You don't have, I'm not raising animals, I'm not raising veal to make traditional spaghetti and meatballs. So I think that's the thing that's very important to me. Like if I have a white line cook in my kitchen, right, and he's cooking, and I have dishes, and it's purloo, or it's a bowl of grits, or it's sweet potato biscuits, right? Whatever those things are, they don't have to be soul food because I'm a black chef, and they don't have to be not soul food because I'm a white chef. They are what they are, and from an ingredient standpoint, I just think we're cooking great food in a time and place, and that's what I want to focus on. That one, and then the second thing I want to focus on is whenever you're cooking food that's not of your culture, whatever that culture is. If you're Russian and you're cooking sushi, you need to be looking at finding the Japanese sushi master and trying to see how close you can get to that person. You might not never go to Japan and cook sushi next to the sushi master, but how many degrees of separation are you away from that? Are you just, oh man, I seen a YouTube video of somebody rolling sushi, so I'm gonna make sushi and now I'm gonna go open a sushi restaurant. Nah, you can't do that. You gotta go as deep as you can and then go backwards. Like, I know so many different chefs. Italian food is kind of that catch-all, right? How deep do you go with Italian food? Are you going northern Italian or southern Italian? Like, what different areas are you going to? I know I got a thick Italian book. I don't know you know the name of it, but I got a thick Italian book, and when I really, really want to cook Italian food, I look there, or I call people. I'll ask Joe, hey man, how y'all doing this pasta? What are y'all doing different? Yeah. Because he has a deeper skill set with it. So it's very important to me as a black chef in the South to pay homage to people who came before me and make sure that everybody is doing that same thing. Like, you can't take civil liberties with something that's not of you. You know what I mean? Like, right. It's like men talking about how women should handle certain situations that are women's situations. Like, bro, how? Like, it don't make sense to do. You know what I'm saying? So, so for me, that's what's more important. Like, what's your calling, whatever ain't really important to me. What's really important is looking at the heritage and looking at the history and starting from there. If you're a writer, if you're a journalist, look at the history first and then come back. It's so many chefs that came before me that cook way better everything that I cook. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to figure out how to have my voice in the ingredients and the food that I work with. And also pay homage to the people who came before me. Not just the black folks that came before me, not just the white folks that came before me. Like, everybody who came before me, if I get grits from Greg or Geechee Boy, I want to make sure I'm treating them grits right. So if he come eat my bowl of grits and he like, yo, bro, this is trash, I gotta go back. I gotta go back and make sure I'm doing right. At the same time, if I make a bowl of grits and Greg thinks they're great and my granny thinks they're trash, I gotta go back. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because we have a responsibility as people who sell food to consumers to make sure that we're going to history and doing the thing with our heart and not just saying, yeah, I'm gonna just put some shit on the plate because I know it'll make money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think if you have this mentality and this way of looking at it, the bottom line answer is who fucking cares?
Right.
Right? Yeah. In the way, like, you guys are just cooking in the kitchen. You're just trying to do the best you possibly can for yourself. And who cares about all that noise, right? I think it's great. Like, you have soul food sessions, so that does pay homage to your history and your culture, but that's great, that's fine, compartmentalized, that's cool, but in the whole grand scheme of things, in the culinary world, you're just cooking, and people
you
are just coming
give
in
a
to eat.
You still gotta give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's the key. Like, there's a lot of people out here, man, in the industry, man, who just don't care. Yeah. You know what I mean?
A lot of smart people too. Their intellect their intellect is not driven by their values, and I think that's the problem.
You gotta have like, in the food industry especially, because like I think it kind of gets to a place to where a lot of people think they can do what we do. Like we don't spend time trying to figure stuff out. Like we don't struggle. Like we don't spend like it's not like we make a menu and this boom my menu item best dish ever. Nah, we make mistakes. We go back and we go back and we go back and we fix it, because when people come in and pay 15, 20, 30, 40, whatever they're paying for food, it's gotta be good. It's gotta have a value. You gotta care. If you're in the kitchen, if you're listening right now, you're in the kitchen, you're cooking, and you don't care, get the fuck out of the kitchen, because you're wasting everybody's time and you're gonna waste somebody's money sooner or later because you don't care. You gotta love this shit. Don't do it.
Here's a question for both of you. Actually, for Bobby, too, because you guys have all worked as chefs, been in the kitchen doing whatever. An answer, whomever's got the first answer to it. What's the hardest thing in your job? What's the hardest part of your job?
Oh, I'm going to let you go.
I think the hardest thing is balancing your work life with your married life. For me, I have 3 children, and you know, the way that I prioritize it is that, you know, first and foremost comes my family, you know, and then comes our team, and then comes the business. And I think just being able to make sure that you know when you need to be there, you know when you don't need to be there, and then being aware of when, you know, you can kind of make sure that you're not being there too much and then
shut off.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So I think it's finding that balance of you know, but I say this, you know, like I would rather fail as a chef than fail as a father any day of the week, or a husband.
Oh yeah. Kindred and Hello Sailor are both closed on Monday, is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So you actually have a legitimate day off.
We do, unless me and Greg are, you know, cooking together.
Finding somewhere else to cook
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, no, we do. And for the most part, knock on wood, I take Sundays off as well.
Yeah.
So we
As
got
you
Sunday
should,
and
man.
Monday.
I think that's the smart thing. I mean, that's something that we all learn just as like that. Can we all say that like the food and beverage industry has really moved like light years ahead of what it was just in these last 2 years, let's say?
Yeah.
Like it's remarkable. I mean, there was so much machismo and hubris about, bro, you got to put the hours in, man. You got to fucking do it, and then just whatever. Like we talked about the whole Me Too movement and all this stuff. Like we're so removed from a lot of the crap that was considered to be standard in this industry, and that's great. And part of it is like way of life and quality of life. And people are just choosing a better life and realizing that, like, yeah, you can kind of release, like you can walk away from the line for a few hours or a few days and realize that it ain't going to go anywhere, and you're not going to be, you know, it's not going to fall apart, and you can even close for a day. Like that's not bad. What about you, Greg? Is there anything that Joe didn't say that you struggle with a lot?
So I don't. I think the universe has blessed us with not having babies just because of how I am as a person. Like I take my couple days now, but I like to cook, and that really doesn't. That's not really conducive to growing the business or being profitable or successful. Like me wanting to be on the line and cooking. Like I still love that. So I think for me the most difficult thing about the industry is kind of letting go of the handlebars and let somebody else do it. Even my wife, like I know her main goal on a day-to-day basis when we're at the restaurant is to do this because I love it, because it's my passion. But it's hard for me to let go of the control, right? Like, hey, babe, do this. I need you to do that. I need you to do that. And, you know, and it ain't always easy. Yeah. For me, it's hard to step back and let other people control it. Like right now, I got a catering going out right now while I'm here. When I tell you, if I didn't have like a team-centric idea of how things need to be, and I have a great staff, and I got a great number 2, and my wife's doing the catering while we're up here, and then she's going to come up to the dinner and actually relax and eat. Nice. For me, letting go of the control thing, yeah, man, that's my ace, man. That's like,
you two have that similarity. It's like two power couples,
and that's another thing too about together. Them. We opened in 2012. Y'all opened in 2016. 2015. So when they opened, we were like, oh wow, it's a couple running a restaurant. phenomenally. So we kind of look at them and say, hey, what are y'all doing? Like, how y'all doing this? How are y'all? Like, I send them a message, say, hey, bro, how you in San Francisco right now? What's going, like, what? How are you doing? It's like, man, we have to do this. We got to do these things. We got to take this time and push and make these moves. And it's super dope to be able to look at a couple living a good life outside of Facebook, and I know their struggles, and I know their ups and downs, and still taking time with the kids, and still running a great restaurant, 2 of them now. So it's super dope to be in a place to be able to look at them and see what they're doing. So
now you're going to have a whole world of more problems because Leah and Louise is about to open up.
Yeah.
Let us know what this is. I know, like in the paper, it's you quoted as calling it a modern juke joint.
Yeah. So
what does that mean?
2 things, right?
I know what modern means.
I hope so, man. What's going on? So a juke joint was a place where a lot of the train workers would go to hear music because there was segregation in the South, and everybody couldn't go to every club and listen to music. So they would go and they would listen to music, and there was also, like brew houses. So there was beer and distilleries and whatever, and there was always like a blues band or whatever, somebody singing. So it was an all-inclusive thing for like black folks getting off work. You get off work, you go behind the train house or whatever. It might be this little shack, and they be playing blues, and they be B.B. King or Muddy Waters or whatever. Like, so, well, not B.B. King, but Muddy Waters and some of those older Mississippi like Delta blues men playing and kind of birthing rock and roll and birthing new blues and birthing different things. So for us, that's kind of the essence of what Memphis is and what Delta food is. Like, when you connect blues and food and the Mississippi River, like, that's who I am. Like, I tell people a lot of time, my flavor profile is Memphis barbecue. Like, I cook like a blues man sings. I'm trying to make you feel like something. You know what I'm saying? I'm not, even no matter what I'm cooking or how it is, I'm trying to make you feel like something every time I put something on a plate, and every time, and I try to make it pretty too. I try to make it cute sometimes, but more often than not, I want you to feel like something.
Do you wear tweezers on your apron?
Sometimes, yeah, I do, man. I ain't gonna lie, I tweeze things at times at restaurants.
I do at Kindred, not at Sailor.
I know, right? I got you. No tweezers today.
Right?
No tweezers today. I got a lot of free flowing stuff today, but I mean, like, it's just yes, I tweeze stuff. But more than anything, my goal with food is to make you feel like a thing. Like, when I cook grits, they're grits based off of my granny eating country ham and grits. So our grits are ham bone grits. We use the country ham stock. We use the country ham bone to make a ham stock, and we cook grits in them. That's me looking at my granny eating country ham and grits and trying to figure out how to make that mine. So when I eat the grits, I feel like I'm there. And I hope when people eat those grits, just like, like, these grits make me feel like I'm there. Maybe not at my granny's house, but maybe at your granny's house. You know what I'm saying? Maybe as a child, maybe you're transported to a place. I'm always trying to make you feel like something, like, and I feel like blues is the same way. And that's kind of the ethos of the restaurant. Like, Leah is my baby sister that passed a few years ago, and she was always trying to be real creative with the food, like playing around with stuff. And Louise is my granny. So the restaurant is like the culmination of trying to play around and be super creative, and like also super deeply rooted in what it is that you're doing. Like, this is the way you make biscuits, son. No other way. This is the recipe. This is how you do it. And then there's my sister. What if I put paprika in them instead of? No, those are not biscuits. That's something else. It's like, I'm going to do it anyway. So it's kind of like Leah Louise is going to be kind of trying to transport people to where Sabrina and I are from. Like, be in Memphis, be in the space, hear blues, hear B.B. King, hear Muddy Waters, hear, even some new blues. So that's the goal with Leah and Louise. There's 40 seats on the inside, 16 seats on the outside, so it's a super small, intimate place. We're going to be pushing out food. I got the menu now. I might let y'all see it.
But you cooked breakfast for so long. Are you going to be able to stay up that late?
I don't know, man. I've been trying to
take a nap in the middle of the afternoon?
Yo, I've been trying to chat. I've been trying to come in later and later every day. Like, I've been trying to make my body get a little used to being out. Like, tonight I'm going to be out a little late. So I've been like, yeah, man, I'm not going to be in at 9. Yeah, I'll be in at 9:30. And then that turns into like 10:30. So I've been trying to make my body get used to getting up a little later. Yeah. Because I ran Lofty Cellar for like 4 months. And that was me getting up at 12, being in there till like 9 or 10. I'm gonna kind of do the same thing at Leah and Louise. I got a pretty good team I'm putting together over there too, so I'll let go of that early.
That's awesome.
I'll let go of that trust quick.
Well, when was the last time you dined at your restaurant?
Oh shit, bro.
I went through a phase where I dined at Hello Sailor like 2 times in 2 weeks, and both times I was like blown away.
That was it though. That's
Normally,
2
I was
times.
like, I haven't been like. And then I went to Kindred that same weekend because we hosted a big event with a bunch of chefs in from all over, and I was impressed.
How puckered were your sous chefs' buttholes while you were there cooking on the?
I went back and like gave them all fist pumps because I was so pumped with how freaking great it was.
I don't. I used to do it a lot. When we were in Rock Hill, I used to. Sabrina and I would take off on Sundays and go in and like eat in the middle of the rush. It's like we would stand in line like everybody else, and we was just like, I just want to see how it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And they would see us come in, and everybody's like, oh, it was like, yeah, but it's all good. Like cook like how you cook for everybody else. For me, like if you're not cooking like this good for everybody else, we missing the boat. And if you're cooking this like whatever level, if it's great for me and you're not cooking this good for everybody else, you're messing up. If it's bad for me, obviously, you know what I'm saying. We don't even need to further discuss that, but. I think we're really fortunate that when we talk to people, we try to make sure that our team is kind of like easy breezy. Like, be focused, but love it. So if you go into every day loving the thing that you're doing, I think you're going to be good. So I'm going to do it a lot at Leah and Louise. I've been telling everybody like 90 days, I'm going to be heads down focused every day, cooking my ass off over there. And then I'm going to slowly step out. But once this time next year happens, oh yeah, I'm all the time.
I think it's important.
Yeah.
Man. I think it's a great thing.
Full
You
service.
should experience it because like sometimes you even just sit at table 42 and you realize, damn, these lights are like shining right in my eyes. If I'm sitting at
I
C3.
don't like table 42 at Kindred. When we renovate Kindred,
Get rid of 42.
42 is out the door.
42 is out of the door. Heard that. I want to say that 42 now. I don't want the perspective.
So before we get out of here, again, thank you for inviting us into Hello Sailor. We're about to have an amazing dinner tonight. We're looking forward to it. But what other chefs are going to join you on your chef series?
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here. We're super pumped that you guys get to experience the menu. We're fired up about it, to say the least. So we've got Chidi Kumar from Raleigh coming down.
Yeah,
we've
Garland.
got Kevin Gillespie coming from Atlanta.
Oh, that's
Gun Show,
right?
Yeah, Gun
So
Show. He
Gun
just
Show.
opened up another restaurant, which we're really excited about. I think it's called Cold Beer.
Yep.
Mahirwan from Asheville, which we're super pumped, and Chai Pani, all those restaurants. Ryan Pruitt, Steven Strajewski from New Orleans. Those are the guys from Koshan, Pesh. Wow. They're just amazing cats. And then we're finishing up with Kevin Nashin and Gerard Kraft. So super pumped.
That's heavy, bro.
Yeah,
That's a heavy lineup coming to the city.
Yeah,
That's great.
so we're excited, and you know, I think it's going to go well. We're pumped.
You know, you would never say this, Joe, but I'll say it, and Bobby and Greg can back me up on this one. Joe's part of the Cool Kids Club, right? Like he's just
for sure.
He is a cool chef.
Yeah.
Chefs want to cook with him.
For sure.
And it's like, and so diners win because
Since day one.
Like it's just you're just a chill dude, and you're fucking good at what you do too. So it's a great environment. You do an awesome job. Super stoked to have you in our state doing what you do.
Well, I really appreciate it, and we appreciate what you guys do for our state.
Oh,
Thanks. Yeah, you're welcome.
Easy money, right?
Well, you know, Matt, you're not here. You're probably changing a diaper on Lord Greyjoe right now, my co-host.
What's up, Matt?
What's happening, Chief?
And so make sure you swaddle him properly. And if he was here, though, he'd let you all know to make sure you go out to Hello Sailor, go out to Kindred, go out to the Yolk, and then go out to Leah and Louise. There's a lot of places you gotta go. But you do have to get out to Charlotte. You will eat and drink merrily.
Sweet. Cheers, guys.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&B podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.